Read the disclaimers, and please use common sense.
Okay, I am incredibly sorry. I know it's been over half a year since my last video, and I can't promise that it won't happen again, but I can promise you that I had good reasons to be absent. First of all, I have a job now. I can't exactly dedicate as much time as I would like to making videos for this channel because I need to make money. The other reason I was gone for so long is because almost immediately after I posted that stop-motion version of the animation in Hayoro Kande by Koji no Kendo, my computer gave up the ghost and decided it was no longer comfortable interacting with non-Apple accessories. Why it decided to spontaneously do that after being comfortable interacting with them for months, I don't know. Honestly, I think I'd have an easier time playing Elden Ring on a Wii Remote sans nunchuck and also reading the Necronomicon backwards, upside down, in Pig Latin than I would trying to wrap my head around the reasons why Apple and their computers do the things that they do. Okay, just gotta recatch my breath. So anyways, I figured I'd make a top 25 figures of 2024 video just so I could make up for lost time. And why 25? Because I like to go one step beyond! Oh yeah, and there's no official worst of video this year. I don't know why, it's just the bad figures that I did get this year just didn't make me mad enough to justify a full video on them. So I'll summarize my worst of list as the most disappointing deco of the year, the one that I had to modify the most just to get some enjoyment out of it, a figure that's the number one reason I'm not surprised that 2024 ended the core class, the subject of what will hopefully be my first collab in years, and another reason why I hate the Studio series, which persistently reminds me that TF1 did not deserve to flop. Another Optimus Prime that reminds me why I hate Studio series, except it's from the GEEMUR edition, and the only objectively terrible figure on the list. And Pizza Head seems to agree, so I must be right. And last things first, the rules. The figures qualified for this list are the ones that I got between the cutoff date for the 2023 list and December 31st of 2024. This is my least consistent rule between videos because it's totally dependent on how overwhelmed I'm feeling by my options. Rule number 2, this list isn't objective in any way whatsoever. Don't get mad when I rank Squeezeplay higher than an Optimus Prime. Rule number 3, third-party Transformers are a-okay on this list, as are any and all original transforming robot toys, such as 5-2 Choi's Beastbox. Not that there's any to put on the list, I took a break from Beastbox in 2024. And rule number 4 is there are absolutely no limits on how many copies of a single character I can put in this video. You'll see why that's necessary in a bit. Anyways, all that's left is to ask... Now, to completely contradict what I said during the worst of segment of the video, how did the core class fail so hard when it was making figures like this? Sure, Tasmania Kid might be based on a super obscure toy-only character in America, and an even more obscure character from the Japanese anime segment of Beast Wars, but this toy is so awesome! It's basically like Kingdom Rat Trap, except better! And it's even basically doing the same thing as Kingdom Rat Trap, and it rules! Maybe core class would have had more success if it had focused solely on making updated versions of the one-step changers from Beast Wars. Maybe in an alternate universe, we got core class versions of characters like Bad Optimus Prime and Crocodile Megatron, instead of random luck field choices like Rock Sword, or Energon Megatron, or Beast Machine's Cheetor. I have a question for Hasbro. Why? Why? But at this point, I don't think Core Class is coming back, at least not under the same name. I watched this great video from Duck Bricks about why LEGO can't bring Bionicle back, and I think they can't bring back Core Class under the same name for the same reasons. The name Core Class is now tainted in the same way that Bionicle is for retailers because they can point to sales history and say, yeah, these things flopped, we're not taking them on again. And that stinks, mostly because Tasmania Kid proved that there was so much more that could be done with the size class. Not to mention, I'm not sure how many more times we can rebrand this size before we run out of names to use. But until that bitter taste is washed out with a rebrand in a few years' time, we're not seeing small-scale Transformers again. But hey, at least I can take solace in the fact that they began the end of the Core Class on a high note. And Boulder Crash was also there for some reason. Revisiting the worst of list that I only meant as a brief introductory gag already, are we? Yep, that's what we're doing. As you can probably tell, I wasn't the biggest fan of GEEMUR Edition Optimus Prime. And don't worry, fans of the GEEMUR Edition, because there's a figure higher on the list that I believe is unironically and unequivocally a win for the GEEMUR Edition. But for now, I've had my sights on this 2-pack for a while, and getting GEEMUR Edition Optimus Prime only cemented my desire to get this pack even faster. Has the Generations 2010 Optimus Prime mold aged a bit? Absolutely. Has Titans Return Cup aged a bit? Absolutely. But both of these molds, independently, are much better than their modern counterparts. 2010 Optimus Prime feels like the good side of the overwrought engineering that was born from Revenge of the Fallen. Granted, the GEEMUR Edition does win out in a few spots, both by recreating the arm swap gimmick from the game and by having a Matrix of Leadership, but a Matrix of Leadership stopped being a selling point back in Earthrise. And the pop and swap gimmick on the arm isn't much better. For one thing, he is literally fisting his own ass. Which, hey, I'm not gonna arrest him for having a different idea of a good time than I do, it's just human nature, but it looks sloppy. Though not as sloppy as the fact that they literally didn't give you any options for using it with the fist still attached. I can't believe it. They bragged so hard about this being a massive improvement in terms of game accuracy, and yet it's not fun, A, and B, it removes one of the few things that would have made it truly game accurate. His back-mounted Autobot badge, which, hey, in their defense, wasn't a part of the 2010 version's transformation. However, the 2010 version at least included it as a sculpted detail, which the new version could have done, but just didn't.
Seriously, all this real estate back here in this hollow backpack, and they couldn't fit in any of that detail?
Plus, most of all, I just enjoy the transformation more on the 2010 version. Yeah, it's got a lot of small parts, and it should be fiddly on paper, but it isn't. I love it way more than the new version. Meanwhile, the Orion Pax is also brilliant, though for a completely different reason. If you really look at it and kind of squint at it, you could almost say that this is an animated universe Orion Pax, from before his promotion to a Prime. Plus, how many times have we gotten toys representing Orion Pax's evolution into Optimus Prime? Barely any by my counts. There are only 2 others besides this set. What I'm trying to say is that this pack rules, and it's a crying shame that it wasn't reissued for Transformers 1. This was originally more of a recurring theme in the list, but gosh darn it, am I glad to have this mold back in my collection. So Beast Wars Megatron from Kingdom was a figure that I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of at the time, mostly because it just felt kind of weird. The soft flaps were weird, the way it transformed was weird, the way it refused to clamshell together was weird. It was just overall a weird toy. So I got rid of it and replaced it with a reissue of the original Beast Wars Megatron, which was a huge mistake, unfortunately. The thing that a lot of well-intentioned but ultimately nostalgia-blind collectors won't tell you about this figure is that it basically lives and dies on its gimmicks like an Armada toy. And if 2 of those gimmicks are broken out of the box, then the stock chunks on the amount of fun that you can have with it basically plummet. Which is why it's a gosh darn miracle that I found an almost complete Kingdom Megatron in Goodwill for only $3. Getting the toy again didn't just make it feel good in comparison to the original Beast Wars figure, it made the jank that initially caused me to bounce off this figure all make sense. But it wasn't the only amazing leader class transformer from Beast Wars that I got this year. Tigerhawk is another amazing toy that I feel people didn't give enough credit to. It's a transmetal fusor, and transmetals and fusors are two of the things that Takara has been the most hesitant to allow Hasbro to redo over the past few years. Whatever may have emboldened them to make such a release, I am glad that they were emboldened to do so, because holy crap, this thing is amazing. It's so big, it's so colorful, and best of all, I got it at half price because Target was having a sale on all the leader class. Okay, so this figure might present a problem for filming, hold on. This figure might be doing too much, honestly. It has so many extra parts on it that, honestly, I would have been comfortable not having on the base release. Heck, I would have been more comfortable if this had been sold separately by a third party as an add-on kit. And that's because the base figure on its own just feels so good. Its size can only be described as ginormous. And the fact that it includes gimmicks such as backwards compatibility and forwards compatibility with Titan Masters, and also the handles on the bottom, cements the fact that on its own, this figure is a worthwhile release without the armor. And yes, you can turn all the weapon bits into an auxiliary robot friend, but I don't much see the point. Especially when it was only one of 2 auxiliary robot buddies that was made out of accessories in the entire trilogy. Seriously, why did they do this? Now, I personally would have pulled the leftover budget from these armor parts into giving him better articulation because, while he does have great articulation, it could be better, but at the same time, I'm not going to deny the fact that Siege Skyfire is an amazing figure with or without the croutons. What do you want me to say about this figure that isn't obvious just from looking at it? It's basically an upgraded version of Earthrise Cliffjumper, taking the same basic transformation but removing the parts forming that pissed everyone off. This toy is just good, not amazing, just good, and sometimes that's enough. All that I feel is noteworthy is that he has a Matrix of Leadership chamber, though I get the feeling this was more an accident than anything. It is neither the coolest Bumblebee on this list from a conceptual angle, nor is it the best figure overall, but I like it, and that's enough. To the surprise of absolutely no one, I did not care for TF1 Studio Series Deluxe Class Optimus Prime. Its problems included, but by were no means limited to, the fact that it looked yellowed out of the box, the Matrix of Leadership looking absolutely pathetic and kind of being a pain in the butt to get into his hands, both of which are the result of how small it is, the extreme difficulty I had getting his chest to tab together, borderline unforgivable trigger-happy shoulders, and an alt mode that looked basically unfinished. Thankfully though, this was a circumstance where the cheaper alternative turned out to be the better alternative, because the Prime Changer Orion Pax / Optimus Prime is so much better, and it's better because it addresses every issue I have with the SS version. Sure, the articulation and scaling might be marginally worse on the Prime Changer, however, in exchange for those 2 sacrifices, you get a better axe accessory that shows all the fingers being molded around the base of the axe rather than just the thumb so it can be interchangeable, a transformation that reinvents the wheels on an Optimus Prime conversion scheme in a way that is both fun and innovative, a vibrant deco that absolutely pops on a shelf, trigger-happy shoulders that don't fall apart because they're trying to transform into vehicle mode every single time you move them, an alternate mode that actually looks cohesive for the most part when you're not using the camera focus like a complete dunce. There we go, thank you. Actual blast effect compatibility, and get this, a Matrix of Leadership and Matrix Chamber that actually participate in the transformation. Oh, and not only do they participate in the transformation, they actually look proportionate and can actually be held correctly in robot mode. And all this for $6 less than the Studio Series, what the heck? One of the unsung aspects of being a collector is the historical aspect of it. And a big part of why is because each new release shows a bit of hindsight on the part of the design team. It's why I'm so harsh on GEEMUR Edition. Okay, that joke has officially run its course. GEEMUR Edition Optimus Prime. The designers literally had over a decade of hindsight between this figure and their prior attempt, only for them to seemingly learn nothing from it. Though that's not entirely fair on my part, especially because the designers were allegedly fighting an uphill battle against the fact that frickin' Activision had lost all of their files from the game. Or at the very least, they forgore where they put them, meaning there were no in-game models that the designers could use as reference material. But even if I forgive that, this toy still stinks because it didn't give you any options. If you wanted to use his gun, you couldn't just use the gun, you had to swap out the arm and stick it to his butt. If you wanted to use his axe double-handed, there was no place for you to put his gun, unless you wanted him to take a trip to the ER. And if you didn't want to use the axe or the gun, then you were basically out of options again, unless you wanted to make his trip to the ER even sillier. And that's why I like Ratchet so much more, because he gives you choices for all of these. Do you just want to use the axe double-handed? There's a special storage place for his gun arm. You want to use his gun arm? There's a special place for you to store his regular arm. Want to use the gun arm but don't want to swap out the regular arm? There's a peg for that. Don't feel like using either weapon? See, this is why I enjoy hindsight so much, because you can see exactly how the designers addressed each of the problems that we had with the original toy. And while, yeah, the materials are kind of on the same level as Siege 8-Face in terms of their soft waxiness, it's still a killer toy, and it gives me plenty of options to make my experience exactly what I need and want it to be. Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know why I like this figure so much. I've kind of sworn off putting figures on the best of list just cause they're rare, but at the same time, I really like this toy for whatever reason, and you know what? That's just fine. I am aware of the fact that I get more than a little long-winded in these videos, and if I'm not seeing a point to being long-winded, then I might as well cut it out. What's this? A Studio Series figure that I actually like? What is the world coming to? In general, that's a great question, but it's unfortunately one that I cannot answer without offending the fandom of at least one politician. Studio Series Bumblebee Shockwave is a reminder of why I actually like Studio Series occasionally. It's a Voyager-class figure that has the room to do what it wants to do without relying on a bunch of tiny fiddly parts. And in the sake of fairness, not every Studio Series figure relies on small parts to begin with. And not all of the Deluxes rely on small parts either. Also, the colors are just pretty and perfect in general. It feels so rare to just get a live-action Transformers movie character that has a color scheme. I'd go into why I personally hate Western media's tendency to use desaturated colors, particularly in superhero films, but I feel as though that's a topic better saved for the next time I invade your YouTube feed, which will hopefully be sooner than a year from now. One of my least favorite parts of having to use this video to play catch up with everything that happened over the past year is that I have to do stuff like announce the fact that the Best of 2023 list video is canceled. This is because over the past year, I've either just donated, broken, or sold enough of the stuff that was going to be on the 2023 list that I don't feel as though I'd be able to make it as well as I would have if I hadn't done all of that. And the reason this ruffles my feathers more than anything is because there were a lot of awesome female Transformers released last year that I wanted to talk about. So to make up for what could have been but ultimately didn't, here are some of the most awesome fembots that I got over the past year. Windblade, despite her boxy jet mode and general inaccuracy to Cyberverse, is an amazing toy with plenty of posability, personality, and paint to go around. Her nose cone and legs are incredibly fun to flip back and forth between their vehicle and robot mode configuration. And I also think that the use of the sword as a blast effect in vehicle mode is genius. Chromia, despite all the controversy surrounding her, is an excellent toy. In fact, this mold was going to be the #1 figure on the Best of 2023 list. Heck, I still think that anime Animated Universe Prowl is the best figure I got in 2023. The transformation into bike mode on this figure is immaculate, and her articulation is the thing dreams are made of. The only problem is that she just shouldn't have been marketed as a Cyberverse character. We are basically spoon-fed super accurate figures these days, so maybe they should have chosen a different universe to market her under. Then maybe more fans would have been willing to give her a chance. And then we've got Filch, who I absolutely adore. She's Kingdom Air Raiser, but she's tailor-made to fit my taste. She's an RID 2015 character, one that never got a toy, even though she totally deserved to have it considering that this design is awesome, and is just one of the many reasons that I vehemently disagree with the general notion that RID 2015 sucks. Yeah, the writing had its problems, however, I still insist that these are some of the most creative and inventive Decepticon designs that the franchise has ever seen, especially when compared to how generic everyone's ass in Prime looked. And we wouldn't really see this inventive spirit again until Earthspark. Just for that, Filch belongs on this list. Oh, and before I forget, I have a certain Mad Aussie to thank for getting me this figure.
Muchas gracias, Dr. Lockdown.
With the end of another Generations trilogy behind us, it seems unfortunately we must bid farewell to the original character parts formers that saturated the past few years. Granted, it's not the first time we've had to say farewell to this concept, as we did have to say goodbye to parts formers temporarily during the first leg of the Legacy trilogy. It's just that what they're getting replaced by has already put a bad taste in my mouth. The Stunticons are some of my least favorite releases in the entire trilogy. I've only got 4 of them, with 3 I find abhorrent. For that alone, I'm not even giving Superion a chance. So the fact that we're moving back over to the combiners that I'm not exactly fond of is a big part of why I'm so sad. But what pours more salt into the wound than anything is just the fact that these last 3 parts forming weaponizers or armorizers or whatever we're calling them were just so good. Magnius feels like a Rocky movie Ironhide, and I absolutely love his head sculpt. Shard might not just be my favorite of the 3, but also my favorite parts former ever. And Nucleon, or Nucleus, whatever he's called, is a souped up Inspector Gadget Batmobile with rocket thrusters. Made out of white quartz, no less. How far can you go? Albeit without any blast effect compatibility. Much like the core class, they leave me asking why we're discontinuing these onwards into 2025, because they're just so awesome and unexpected and nice. Why can't weapons, parts formers, and combiners coexist with each other? Then again, maybe it's for the best that we give them a break. They have been doing this for 2 years, and they probably don't have any other ideas for new characters at this point. Besides, these OC parts formers were only gone for a year the first time they left. And if this whole Age of the Primes thing that's starting this year is only going to last for 2 years, then I don't have to wait long for them to come back. But I will still miss them. Until later, Allocrator. Huh, Allocrator. That would have been a good name for a fossilizer. Oh boy, this is the real recurring theme of the list. I'm not sure why I like these toys. I just do, okay? They're nice, I like the colors and the fact that they're a bit more vibrant and lively than the regular Insecticons, but at the same time, they're based off obscure characters with no media that I could attach to, so there's no specialty behind why I like these toys. Though between the 2 of them, I prefer Barrage just because he is green, and I love green. Armada Terrorsaur is a figure where, once again, my reasons for wanting this figure were none too elaborate. I just wanted this mold and I liked this color scheme, so I grabbed it. And unlike the moronic mollusk that was Dead End, I can actually elaborate on why I like this toy. He's green. That's about it. I just really like green, and I think it's an underutilized color in Transformers. It's seemingly reserved solely for the Constructicons. I even quite enjoy his Transmetal Vehicle mode, even though it's nothing compared to Waspinator's. But you don't have to make everyone look bad in comparison, do ya, Waspinator? This is another mold that I got rid of and really missed. While I certainly feel cheesy phrasing it this way, I think it's not unfair to say that the Kingdom Cyclonus mold is the line's crowning achievement. It was an effortless top 10 toys of all time contender, and then my copy started yellowing. It was a tough choice, but I ultimately had to let him go, and the only reuse the mold saw outside of a Gen Selects repaint was a allegedly massively mediocre Metalhawk. All the while, the price on the after-sale market would continue to skyrocket, but right when all hope seemed lost, the Star Raider capsule bounded over the horizon.
Avast, me hearties! We be going off in search of the One Piece. Sir, I hereby forbid you from watching the anime stuff the humans make.
Now at a base level, is Ferak as good as Cyclonus? No, I don't think he is. It's hard to put my finger on why, but for some reason, removing the third stage of the nose cone in the transformation really diminishes how special it feels. And for some reason, the new tooling on his chest is just really distracting to me for some reason. Kinda makes him look like he's wearing a cardigan. And I don't know, that just humanizes it a bit too much. I prefer my giant alien space robot to look like a giant alien space robot, not a lumberjack impersonating hipster. But yeah, same great toy, same great feelings. Seeing everyone turn against Earthspark with the release of the second season has been unimaginably heartbreaking for me. And having seen every episode in batch 1 of season 2, I honestly have to ask, why do people hate this show now? Sure, the heights that the show reaches in season 2 aren't as high as the heights in season 1, but at the same time, my least favorite episode in season 2 so far is miles better than my least favorite episodes from season 1. And I mean, come on, who doesn't love Aftermath? Bro turns into a Mad Max tow truck that even the Junkions are envious of. Plus, he's voiced by Flea, bassist for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Which, by the way, bassists are super underappreciated and underrated musicians. Trust me, most of your favorite songs would not sound the same without them. Plus, how frequent is it that both the robot mode and vehicle mode exude so much big dickhead energy? For lack of a better term, Aftermath is surly. Whether as a bipedal robot, a quadrupedal vehicle, or a hideous abomination formed by doing an improper fusion dance with Jawbreaker, Aftermath is a blast. Which is kind of ironic because I was half expecting this guy to turn into a battleship. I'm kinda mad at myself for taking so long to buy this figure because, man, this is so cool. I don't think it's public knowledge because, let's be real, I haven't been posting very frequently on this channel as of late, but one of my overall criticisms with the Transformers franchise these days is a lack of originality. And that's why I love collaborative Volvo VNR Optimus Prime, because he is a shining example of the originality that the series could be showing, with the exception of reusing the Earthrise trailer. The alternate mode feels lavish in a way that is rarely seen outside of the studio series. And this robot mode, God, there's no other word for it. It's kick-ass and badass. And unlike Earthrise Optimus Prime, I can actually agree with anyone who says that this figure has Gundam legs, because that's basically what this thing's walking on, wearing low poly knee highs that make up over half his legs. And you know what? I just dig this. Everything about it, including the reused trailer. Overall, I'm really glad that I decided to get this figure, because at this point, I don't think Combat Hero Optimus is happening. Apologies to anyone who agrees with Perspective End, because while I do know that this figure, or rather this mold, has some of the worst trigger-happy shoulders of the entire series. Sorry, I mean Tarn shoulders. Sorry, I mean G-Axis shoulders. Sorry, I mean
one eternity later.
Prime shoulders. Sorry, I mean, look, it's whatever figure you first notice these weird-ass shoulders on, okay? I love Chase, I love Cliffjumper, I love their weird transformation, and I love both of their alt modes, okay? That's really all I have to say about this mold, okay? Okay, Hasbro, I love what you're doing with the deluxe mini-bots, but please stop drip-feeding them to us. You released 3 of them in Kingdom, and then you delayed everything else to, like, just one a year per studio series and mainline generations. I mean, Christ, you were withholding this figure for 3 years. Did it really need that long to cook in the oven? I mean, if that's what it took for us to get a figure this good, then I'm not complaining, but at the same time, give us Power Glide and Sea Spray already. Am I the only one who thinks this release is weirdly ostentatious? I mean, it's Squeezeplay, one of the strangest named and strangest looking Transformers of the latter days of G1. Who would want this? Who would want to go to a retailer or import it internationally just to get this? Well, I've got it, so there's your answer. This is the year that I fell in love with Mastermind Creations. Now, if it's not clear already, I have no beef with unofficial Transformers. Sure, I don't talk about them much, but that's just because of how expensive they are. I mean, I could either buy one third-party figure that I might not like, or 3 Deluxes that I might like. But when it's 4 days after your birthday and you're visiting one of the best toy stores in Chicago, then why not? Treat yourself. Mastermind Creations' Calidus Shadow Ghost might be a very dated release from the company, however, there is still quite a bit of fun to be found with it. A lot of the reason why I don't give many third parties a chance is because their transformations just aren't fun. But transforming Shadow Ghost might be more fun than some of my favorite Chug figures. Not to mention that thanks to their adherence to the IDW models, that this is one of the most stylish Transformers I've ever seen in my life. My only problem with the figure is that, well, in order to facilitate the shoulder articulation in robot mode, they didn't glue in the back fins. So they keep falling off whenever I don't want them to. But this figure has made me a fan of Mastermind Creations, and it inspired me to buy my very first third-party figure, or at the very least one that wasn't already owned by someone before me. As you all know, we lost the incredibly talented Derek J. Wyatt 2 years ago. He was the art director behind Ben 10 Omniverse and, more applicably, Transformers Animated. And just this past year, we got 2 Transformers Animated figures, and in a way, it felt like a fitting send-off to Derek. Wait, no, I mean 3. That's including the Motormaster retool. But both Animated Universe Bumblebee and Animated Universe Optimus Prime are amazing.
Ooh, scratch that. He broke in the middle of filming. Disqualification.
Well, in light of that, I guess I'm gonna have to say that Animated Optimus Prime is amazing. From the super accurate robot mode to the fully molded vehicle interior, this figure was clearly made with love. Okay, this is a really weird one. Like, I think we can universally agree that out of all the characters to remake, Magmatron was the least likely. Especially because this does not feel like a Transformer, more like a toy from Super Sentai or Power Rangers. It's 3 dinosaurs that break apart to become either a horrible abomination dragon thingy, or to become the most whacked out robot you've ever seen. One so whacked out that it barely looks like a robot. And that all feels very nostalgic to me. Most of the non-Lego toys I had as a kid were Power Ranger Megazords, and this really reminds me of a Power Rangers Megazord. So on that level, I really can't help but love this figure. Granted, I don't think the fundamentalists of our fandom are gonna love it, but at the same time, that's alright. This figure is just for me. Something weird that I only just recently learned about myself is the fact that some of my favorite figures are the ones that proved that I was wrong. It's a tale as old as YouTube funny men criticizing media online. We run headfirst into a project with our preconceived notions only to realize that we don't agree with those preconceived notions. And sometimes we charge ahead with those preconceived notions anyways, posting videos with opinions that we already disagree with. Same can be said for the process leading up to getting a figure. We can go in expecting a figure to be terrible and end up being wowed by it, or we can go in expecting things to be amazing and end up getting disappointed by it. But I think it's much harder to change your first impression of a figure after you've unboxed it for the first time. And that was the predicament that this figure left me in until I checked the instructions. And that, my audience, is when everything literally fell into place. Collaborative Transformers x Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Party Wallop is now my go-to example of clever accessory storage. Bam! The bandanas and bow staff seamlessly slide into the shell. Kapow! The katanas slot in over the shoulders. Slam! The sais slide into the saddlebags. And Noom, the nunchakukas store in the shoulder pads. You can build Party Wallop however you want him to be, which I believe classifies him as a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none type character. He can lead, do machines, be cool but rude, or a party dude, just like any of the other turtles. Not that I'd expect anything less from a guy whose given name is Party. After all, he must be doing enough multiclassing to cover for everyone. At the same time, he also kind of feels like a fifth member of the team, making up for what the others lack, a strong defensive line. And that's not to say that I don't have any problems with Party Wallop. The sais and the swords will not stay attached to him no matter what I do, and the transformation doesn't even remotely approach what I'd consider fun. Plus the alt mode, yeah, it's just kinda perfect. And most of the accessories don't even need to be removed for the transformation, just the swords and the sais. Though admittedly, this figure is on the list as a bit of a placeholder, though in a weird way. Thanks to how this video is titled, I cannot put figures that aren't Transformers on the list, though that might be a change in next year. I really want to commemorate the fact that last year's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video did really well, despite the fact that it wasn't Transformers related. Seriously, I mean it, denizens of the internet, you really wowed me. I'm honestly glad that you guys are here to watch what I do. I know that I've really been taking my time with my videos as of late, but considering how well the TMNT video did, maybe there's some truth to the old phrase, slow and steady wins the race after all. Oh hey, just like a turtle! I love this toy almost as much as I lack confidence in the fact that I'll be able to pronounce its name properly. The primary allure of MMC Rowan Atkinson. The primary appeal of MMC's Transtech Cheetor is the fact that it is based off of a piece of cancelled Transformers media. Yeah, after the failure of Beast Machines, the plan was to go to vehicles with some wacky-ass designs. Machines that would take the idea of combining metal and flesh even further than they had gone in Beast Machines. And not only would we see the return of characters like Black Arachnia, but G1 originals like Starscream and Optimus Prime. But thanks to how poorly Beast Machines did, we never got to see Transtech. Nearly 3 decades later, this is where MMC enters the picture, because if you don't know anything about MMC, they like to do retools, but they like their retools to be a bit goofy, a little wacky, if you will. Everywhere the competition zigs, MMC zags when it comes to their retools. And well, you can't zig more than zigging into someplace no one else has gone before. I love MMC's Transtech Cheetor for similar reasons to why I loved Transformers United Magmatron. I loved Tokusatsu, and I don't think it gets more Tokusatsu than stealing some ideas from Guyver, which as far as I'm aware is basically edgy Tokusatsu. I'm not gonna watch it. And here, viewed through the lens of a robot that transforms into a literal sci-fi freak wagon? Ah, well, it's the best in the business, obviously. All of this served alongside the best articulation the biz has to offer, and a transformation that I find fun makes it one of the most impressive figures in my collection, and the one that impressed me the most this year. But not the one that had the greatest impact. Because despite the fact that this figure is the one that impressed me the most, there was actually a figure that had a far more profound impact on me. But there are also some that didn't have a profound impact that I still want to whinge about. Welcome to the Honorable Mentions, the place where all the figures that didn't make the list got to go. That's not to say these figures are bad, they just didn't meet my tastes in the same ways that the figures that did get on the list did. Such as G1 Universe Optimus Prime. This figure is nice, but it's not quite my thing. The Cyberverse Universe repaint of Tarn is awesome, but there are things that I liked more than it. That includes MMC Symphony is amazingly posable for such a small figure. And the reason she didn't make the list proper is because I like her boyfriend more. Beastore Silverbolt is good, and if this was a top 26, then he'd be the entry at number 26. Though I feel as though Cybertron Starscream could also earn the spot. I don't know, I think I need another copy of this to be sure. There's more than a few paint chips that makes it feel disheveled right now. The Skyboom Shield might just be the best Minicon team ever made by humans. I don't know how I didn't know that. Road Pig is awesome, even though he is a little underpainted, but that doesn't make me care any less about this thing. Oh, and Cannonball rules. sure he's not accurate to the original toy or cartoon, but he still rules all the same. Shattered Glass Hot Rod is amazing because it fixes all of my problems with the 86 figure, but at the same time, there's already a Shattered Glass Rodimus on this list, and it's MMC Calidus Shadow Ghost, so tough luck. Tobaki earned my respect for Iron Factory. It's just unfortunate that over the past year, I've come to the conclusion that I don't really like the Legend scale anymore. Dr. Lockdown just gave me a Q-Transformer Shockwave and a Blocky's Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. I might need more of these. Oh, and I'd never forgive myself if I forgot to mention the Kamen Rider Blokies that I got. These are so awesome. But they're not Transformers, so they don't belong on this list. Do they? Also, is there a straight answer on whether or not it's pronounced Blockies or Blokies? I'm low-key confused over here. Or is it Locky? Well, that's all the honorable mentions I had. So, for the last time, allow me and Mr. Sauceman to ask you... I feel like if there's anything about me that goes without saying, it's the fact that, well, I'm more than a little hyperbolic. And you know what? That's just fine. Hyperbole can be very fun to use. But overusing it can also be more than a little exhausting. I can be exhausting. I can even exhaust myself. 2024 was the 40th anniversary of the Transformers franchise, and I really wanted to celebrate along with everyone. But thanks to circumstances I've already mentioned, I wasn't able to join in. Thanks to not having a computer, I wasn't able to show anyone the fact that I really did like Studio Series Shockwave. Nor was I able to say my piece on why I liked RID 2015 thanks to Filch. No one knows what I thought of TF1 as a movie, which by the way, it was great. I didn't get to show anyone the planning I'm doing for my webcomic that's coming out in April. And I didn't get to share how profound of an impact Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime had on me. It got me to slow down. It forced me to stop being hyperbolic. 86 Optimus Prime feels mature. And I don't mean that in the whole, oh, we're too old for toys mentality that we're all tricked into believing is maturity. Because this isn't a high-end collector's item like the Masterpiece figures are. And you know what? Good. Mostly because I don't think I would have enjoyed it the same if it was trying to be a collection centerpiece in the same way that the MPs are. I don't want or need a centerpiece for my collection. I don't need things to be Hypertune accurate or transform in 5 steps or less. I don't need elbows and knees that are always double jointed. I don't need an accessory count of 10 items or less. And I don't always need to be hyperbolic to have a good time making a video. When I look at this toy, I'm reminded of everything that Optimus Prime stands for. The humanity, the compassion, the courage, the willingness to boldly proclaim that freedom is the right of all sentient life forms. Even his silly campiness in the G1 cartoon. This toy is both an effigy to the 40-year-long evolutionary chain that has led to this point, and a reminder that while the world may keep on transforming in ways we don't like, there will always be something to look forward to. Like the fact that I plan on sticking to my New Year's resolutions to talk less in these videos and make them under 30 minutes long from now on. Mostly because this video nearly missed being out in January, and also it's nearly 3/4 of an hour long. Jesus. The manic embarrassment I felt from having an improperly adjusted audio track in the Kingdom Air Razor review that made the first few minutes of the video unlistenable just really turned me into a perfectionist. But from here on out, I just want to reduce how much of a perfectionist I am so I actually make videos in a timely manner. And with that being said, this is Firebyte 27 over and out. Have a wonderful year, everyone, and I'll be back before you know it, hopefully.
GEEMUR Edition!